Today we are going to understand about the menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle takes place in the female primates. So it is the reproductive cycle only takes place in the female primates. Now in the primates group, if you see, the primates like human beings, apes and monkey. So these groups comes under primates. So in the female primates only this reproductive cycle takes place. So the menstrual cycle actually started after onset of puberty. So after onset of puberty, this cycle started in the female, and we know the onset of puberty means start of the menstrual cycle in between 11 to 13 years of age. So it is started after onset of puberty. If you see the time duration of one menstrual cycle in a human female is around average 28-29 days. So this is actually under the control of hormone. The hormone of hypothalamus the hormone of pituitary gland and hormone of ovary control this menstrual cycle. So because of the hormone, so many changes takes place in the ovary as well as uterus of the female. So separately we will study about ovarian cycle. In the ovarian cycle, what changes takes place in the ovary, that we are studying this ovarian cycle. And next is uterine cycle. So in uterine cycle, we will understand or we will study about the phases or the changes takes place in the uterus. Actually, both the cycle, ovarian cycle and uterine cycle takes place simultaneously. For better understanding, we will study in the two different headings. Now further, this ovarian cycle is divided into three phases. First is known as follicular phase. Second phase is known as ovulatory phase. Third phase is known as luteal phase. So ovarian cycle is divided into three phases: follicular phase, ovulatory phase and luteal phase. So one by one we will study about these phases. If you talk about the uterine cycle, in the uterine cycle also three phases are there. First one is a menstrual phase, or you can say menses. Second one is proliferative phase. And third one is known as secretory phase. So now we will understand about the ovarian cycle. So in the ovarian cycle, the first phase known as follicular phase. So follicular phase, if you see, from the first day to 13th day of the menstrual cycle. So we are assuming in a female, one menstrual cycle is of 28 days. So from the first day, first follicular phase, so duration, if you see, from first to 13 days of the menstrual cycle, this follicular phase will take place. So in this follicular phase, because of one hormone which are secreted from the pituitary gland. So pituitary gland, as we know, it is very important endocrine gland. It secretes very important hormone. So this hormone is known as follicular stimulating hormone or FSH. So because of the secretion of FSH, follicular development takes place. So in the follicular phase, the follicular development takes place. So one mature Graafian follicle will be formed. So in this phase, the primary follicles in the ovary change into secondary to tertiary, and ultimately one mature Graafian follicles will be produced. So this mature Graafian follicles inside, if you see, ovum is present in the secondary oocyte stage. Secondary oocyte stage. After the follicular phase, the next phase of ovarian cycle is known as ovulatory phase. So ovulatory phase means on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, because of LH surge. Because of LH surge means because of the hormone of pituitary gland known as luteinizing hormone, ovulation takes place. Ovulation takes place means release of ovum from the mature Graafian follicles. So because of LH surge, the mature Graafian follicles rupture and it releases the secondary oocyte. So now the secondary oocyte will come into the fallopian tube of the female reproductive system. So ovulation, we can say, takes place in the 14th day or the mid of the menstrual cycle. And the responsible hormone for ovulation is LH. Because of high level of LH on the 14th day, ovulation takes place. Now after ovulatory phase, the next phase in the ovarian cycle is known as luteal phase. So in the luteal phase, if you observe, means after 14 days, from 15th to 28th day of the menstrual cycle, luteal phase will be there. So in the luteal phase, the remaining part of the ruptured Graafian follicles will converted into yellow body, yellow structure. So here ruptured Graafian follicle. This remaining part of the ruptured Graafian follicle will change into this yellow body or yellow structure, and that yellow structure is also known as corpus luteum. And this corpus luteum, it acts like a temporary endocrine gland. And this temporary endocrine gland will secrete high level of progesterone. So in the luteal phase, if you observe the blood of the female, in the blood, the progesterone level will be very high. Not only the progesterone, even corpus luteum also secretes a small amount of estrogen. And this progesterone will help in the maintaining of the thickening of endometrium that we will understand in the uterine cycle separately. So in ovarian cycle, we understood about the follicular phase, ovulatory phase and luteal phase. Now come to uterine cycle. So in uterine cycle, as we know, it is also divided into three phases. So first phase is known as menstrual phase, or you can say menses. So first in uterine cycle is known as menstrual phase. So in the menstrual phase, it lasts 3 to 5 days. So bleeding occurs, or you can say bleeding phase. So bleeding occurs because of the shedding of the endometrium. So saddening of the endometrium and rupturing of the blood vessels. So here you can say endometrium wall shedding of, and the blood vessels of the endometrium also get ruptured. So bleeding occurs and the duration is 3 to 5 days. So around 30 to 50 ml of blood will move out from the female body. After this menstrual phase, the next phase is known as proliferative phase. In the proliferative phase, it is started from 6th to till 14th day of the menstrual cycle. So because of high level of estrogen here, the endometrium thickening will increase. So high level of estrogen causes the thickening of endometrium. After this proliferative phase, the next phase is known as secretory phase. So the third phase is secretory phase in the ovarian cycle, uterine cycle. So in the secretory phase, because of high level of progesterone, we can compare the secretory phase with the luteal phase. In the luteal phase, we observe that high level of progesterone is secreted by corpus luteum. So in the secretory phase, the endometrium thickening will be maintained because of high level of progesterone. Not only this, the endometrium becomes secretory. It becomes secretory in function, and it starts secreting mucus and nutritive substances. Means endometrium prepare itself for the implantation. As you know, this endometrium, the endometrium is the inner lining of the uterus. It is inner lining of the uterus where implantation takes place. Means the embryo in the blastocyst stage will get attached with the endometrium. So endometrium prepare itself before implantation takes place. So this is about the menstrual cycle. In menstrual cycle, we studied about the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle separately. Actually, both the changes are taking place in simultaneously. We can compare, we compare the secretory phase with the luteal phase, and we can compare this proliferative phase with the follicular phase. So these changes are taking place in the female. So every month, one egg will be released in the mid of the menstrual cycle. So this phase will be continue till a menopause stage will come. So when a female reaches at the age of 45 to 50 years, the menstrual is stopped. Means the menstrual cycle do not takes place, egg production do not occur after this age, and that phase is known as menopause. So after menopause, no menstrual cycle. In beginning we studied onset of puberty. After onset of puberty, the first menstrual cycle is known as menarche, and stopping of the menstrual cycle is known as menopause. So you can say the time duration between the menopause and menarche is the reproductive phase of the female. So this all about the menstrual cycle. I hope you understood the concept of menstrual cycle. Thank you.